This dropped this morning.
New show.
Nope.
For you.
No.
Oh.
Wait till you hear this.
Okay.
Max.
Love Max. I was watching Max last night.
What were you watching?
Last of Us.
I was watching Max last night, too.
What were you watching?
Rehearsal.
Hell yeah.
Love it. Love. But.
Let the games begin.
Yeah, it's such a good show. But season 2 better than season 1. But. Big announcement. Max is rebranding.
What?
Wait.
Yes, again. Max is rebranding. Yes.
Are you joking?
No. No.
Whoa.
Yes, Max. I don't want anybody looking anything up.
Didn't they just rebrand
They
last
did.
year?
Literally a
Yeah.
year ago.
They were like, well, not HBO anymore.
Well,
We're Max.
I don't want you to get confused.
Okay.
It started as HBO, the channel,
Yes. Which still exists.
I guess. Then, yeah, that's what you watch your program on. That's
Yeah,
what you watch.
Bill Maher.
HBO, the linear channel.
10 o'clock on Fridays.
He's not kidding.
No, he's not.
He does watch linearly, which is great.
Yeah.
But I want to say the HBO streaming journey started with HBO Now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or Go.
I believe HBO Now was the streaming service for people who had HBO. If you had HBO, then you could log into HBO Now.
I think you're right.
HBO Now was a on-demand streaming service for HBO.
Right. So, and then this is the journey. And then they go like this. They go, okay, but if you don't have HBO and you'd still like to stream only, then we will make HBO Go. And people said, well, if I have HBO, should I get HBO Go? And they said, no, you can get HBO Now for free. Now, this was already confusing to people. I know multiple people who were paying for HBO and for HBO Go because they didn't understand HBO Now. But HBO Now and HBO Go acted as two separate services for a period of time.
But they were the same thing.
Right, but one you logged in with your cable and one you paid for separately.
Mm-hmm.
Then they merged HBO Now and HBO Go. You see. Then it just became HBO Go.
Okay.
Then they merged again, and I believe it became HBO Max. Because that was when everything was together and they were getting like the Discovery shows and everything, and it was like, this is HBO to the max. Yeah. And some people said it was because they had Cinemax shows on, but it wasn't HBO and Cinemax. It was just HBO to the max.
Right.
Now, I do believe they do own Cinemax.
I think you're right.
But
Skinamax.
That's right.
and that's where you get Skinemax. I watched a lot of Skinemax growing up.
Same.
It's the 90s.
Love that.
Me too.
But but I do not believe HBO Max was a play on HBO and Cinemax. I believe HBO Max was the max of HBO.
Yeah,
because it was so many programs. You could get like all this stuff. Then they said this is getting too confusing. They said, what's more valuable as a brand? HBO or Max?
I remember this.
And then we all came to the agreement. It was Max. And so they just started calling it Max, right?
Yeah.
And on Max, they were like, here's everything on Max. One of the categories is HBO.
It's like, isn't that the category?
And I thought this was HBO. And they said, no, this is Max. I said, HBO Max. They said, just Max. I said, okay. Today, Max is no longer called Max.
Okay.
Troy, would you like the first guess? Do you have any idea?
I don't have any idea.
Okay, Troy.
Huh.
What's your guess? What has it been rebranded to? Based on the history we just laid out, which I think is correct, but it's very complicated.
Well, it can't be HBO.
Okay.
You're saying it's not Max.
Okay.
So they have to just be pulling some other name out of somewhere.
Okay.
All?
All. Okay, you think it's just a service called All. I'm not saying that's stupid. I'm just asking. That's final guess.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, you're going with all.
All. Which honestly, like.
At
So
this
should I
point-
go with Descendants?
That'd be a good one.
but honestly, to go from Max to All, it's not that crazy. No. So you're saying All. Okay. Mike, have you looked it up? Do you have any idea what it is?
Is it Max BO?
You think it's Max BO?
Max
I like that.
BO.
I like that. Okay, it's a little play on that. Max BO. That's fun.
Yeah.
Travis, do you have a guess? And if you know, please do not guess.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. I like Max BO.
My guess,
Okay.
knowing how these streaming services work,
Okay.
is that it's going to be just HBO.
Okay. So you think it's all. You think it's Max BO.
I think it's HBO.
And you think it's straight HBO.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will update your apps and you will find that they have rebranded to HBO Max.
That's what it was last year.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What?
Yes, it's
What are they
HBO.
doing?
It is HBO Max. Yes. HBO Max is what the service is now called. HBO Max lives. Max changes its name back to HBO Max after 2 years, is what they're saying. It was 2 years ago that it went to Max, and now it's back to HBO.
Yeah, that's what the brand always was.
Max.
They're rebranding back to HBO.
Back to HBO Max so that we may all celebrate. I don't know.
What's the reasoning? Do they say?
Okay, turns out Warner Brothers Discovery thinks HBO has some pretty good brand equity after all, which everybody said that.
Everybody said that.
You don't exactly have
HBO's
to.
been around forever.
Did you go to college for branding?
No.
But you knew that.
Yeah, of course, HBO. Everybody knows what that is.
Right. Oh, okay. What about Max?
I mean,
You know
Look,
a guy named Max.
you go like, okay, this is more simple.
Max is more simple than HBO?
I know Max Powers.
Max Powers.
Saying Max is more simple than saying HBO Max.
Yeah, but it's
That's
HBO.
true. That's true.
Everybody
So when you
knows
say like, it's
But
just,
if I said to you, Troy, we're either going to be HBO or Max,
I'd probably say HBO.
Yeah.
They
Like,
went-
what's Max?
it's a guy. It's the Max, which is why you were like all.
Yeah.
Because it's the same logic. HBO has some pretty good brand equity after all this summer. Okay, so we can get excited for it. The same way we get excited for the team schedules that are going to drop. We're going to get excited. This summer, it's on its way. Max will bend the knee and rebrand back to its original name, HBO Max,
Do you
which
wanna
isn't
hear a
actually
press
its
release?
original name.
No.
The change comes after just 2 years.
Scroll down.
Discovery decided to drop HBO from the streamer's name and become just Max. Let's scroll down. Does it have the
Yeah,
statement? Because I want to know the statements from the
Keep going.
from the
there.
company. In a press release, Warner Brothers Discovery, and people will go like, what does Warner Brothers Discovery have to do with this? You might not know this. Warner Brothers Discovery owns HBO Max.
Okay.
So returning the HBO brand into HBO Max will further drive the service forward and amplify the uniqueness that subscribers can expect from the offering. Those are words, a lot of words. Those are all words. It is also a testament to WBD's willingness to keep boldly, it says iterating, but I'm pretty sure it's irritating its audience. It's iterating its strategy and approach, leaning heavily on consumer data and insights to best position itself for success. Like, dude.
You know what the consumer data and insights said?
What?
Why the fuck isn't this called HBO?
This was the easiest layup. Like, every staple has this shocking story about how could it not survive. How could Blockbuster not survive? If they had just bought Netflix and named it Blockbuster, they would have evolved and been okay. If whatever, like every brand that you think is going to last forever that ends up not evolving, HBO is the one service that had built enough equity that if you just said HBO is a streaming service called HBO, we happen to have a channel, but we are a streaming service called HBO, and you can find all the stuff that you would find on HBO, all the great shows, because like what channel was more viewed than HBO associated with great shows, associated with commercial movies, and was on top of the DVD thing, because that's how much people love those shows. If they just go, yeah, HBO is a streaming service, and now the HBO streaming service is acquiring X, Y, and Z, that's all you have to do. But there's somebody at Warner Brothers that did not come up with HBO that is hell-bent on making sure that they are right, that HBO is not that valuable, when HBO is by far.
Actually, I have an idea.
I mean, there aren't that many cable channels that are more valuable than HBO as a brand. I would say there's ESPN.
I was just gonna bring that up.
ESPN, HBO, as far as a content brand, like ESPN.
And that's why it's fun to like make fun of like, oh, ESPN is calling their streaming package ESPN, but
That's
like,
exactly what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to charge, and they're going to charge $30 a month for it. If you're going to charge $30 a month for it, which is a lot, just call it ESPN because that's what people like. And that's still like, when you say this person came over from ESPN, oh, that's a big deal. They're a big deal person. Like, but ESPN, HBO, I mean,
you can stop there.
yeah. Like, CNN is still a brand,
That's fake news.
but yeah, it's taken a licking, and they try.
Who's at CNN?
And they tried a streaming.
Can you tell me one? I mean, aside from Anderson Cooper, can you tell me one person that's at CNN?
I can picture his face.
Jeffrey Toobin.
Jeffrey Toobin is
Forgot
still a
about
correspondent,
Jeffrey Toobin.
but we know him from his work outside of CNN, mainly from Zoom calls and OJ stuff. I can picture.
And I forgot about Wolf Blitzer and his television.
That's right. My dad doesn't
Jennings.
like.
Who?
Scott Jennings.
I don't know who that is.
You mean Peter Jennings?
Peter Jennings
from ABC
from
News.
ABC News. I know him.
Scott
I know him.
Jennings.
I don't know who Scott Jennings
Oh,
is.
okay. He's
What-
great.
You like him?
Well, he roasts all the libs.
On CNN.
Oh yeah, he's on that that Abby show, the 10 o'clock hour.
Troy's the wrong guy to ask because he watches linear television all the time.
He's like, no, he's on the 10 o'clock CNN.
Yeah.
And he roasts the libs.
Troy's pretty sure that most cable channels are still equitable brands.
There you go. There he is.
I guess I've seen that guy's face.
I mean,
You're
it looks
shocked.
like-
Troy's looking at us shocked, like, don't you know who this is? He's
Oh, he just cooks them.
is that
He
Christian
roast-
Bale doing a role?
It looks like it. It looks like he's got like a little bit of, not a fat suit, but a slightly chubby suit on. He roast libs on Abby's show.
On Abby Phillip?
Abby Phillip. There you go. Yeah.
You like Abby Phillips' show because she has him on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think,
Oh my God.
I mean,
again.
even MTV, like,
MTV, that's
it's
not,
nothing anymore. They've destroyed their brand.
It's Jersey Shore and Teen Moms.
Yeah, MTV destroyed the brand. Comedy Central destroyed the brand. VH1 destroyed the brand. Like, these were all super strong brands at a point, but they're all toast.
I think you can go to Urban Outfitter and still get an MTV shirt. So
Right,
maybe
because it's kitschy.
Right.
It's ironic. Like that's the equity in the brand. You could post it. You could put it on a commercially distressed shirt. But like, yeah. Aside from ESPN and HBO, those are the two television brands that still have equity, and they just refuse to name the service HBO.
It's ridiculous.